Hari Om.
Hari
Everybody.
Om.
Pranam Swamiji, welcome.
Pranam Vivaji.
Pranam Swamiji. Welcome Swamiji, Swami Abhishek Giriji, and welcome all the attendees in this small webinar. It's my pleasure to introduce Swami Abhishek Chaitanya ji. He is the Mahamandaleshwar, is the head of the Jagat Guru Sannyas Ashram Rishikesh, and he's as everyone knows, he's a Vedant teacher also, and in simple terms, he's a globe trotter also now, going from Europe, America, Malaysia, and many other Southeast Asian countries. And the most important part is that he takes great interest in all the activities of the Fawai Forum. On behalf of Fawai Forum, Swamiji, we welcome you very much to this webinar, and Puja Swamiji will say a few words more on this. Yes, Swamiji, pranam.
Hari
Thank you.
Om, Hari Om. Yeah, so as Vibhaji rightly said, Puja Swami Abhishek Chaitanya Giri is a good friend of Hawaii Forum, taking interest in all our projects. And many of us have visited his ashram in Rishikesh. I stayed there a couple of times, and in fact, he helped us put together a wonderful program at the Vivekananda Kendra there, Upanishad Conclave in 2014, I think. And in various ways, we have remained connected. We have held program together at Suvarnamukhi in Bangalore and many other places. It's a long friendship, and more than anything else, I regard him as a very devoted student and teacher of Vedanta. He has special love for many traditional texts, many traditional commentaries on the Prasthanatraya. He has a wonderful collection of very precious books also. Therefore, he is a very valuable resource in Vedanta as well as Patanjali's yoga. So, after a long time, we have got him again to speak at our webinar series. I join all of you in extending a very hearty welcome to him and request him to address all of us and throw light on this very intriguing topic. Does Jivan Mukti exist? I like that topic. Swamiji, over to you. Namaskar.
My hearty pranams to Swamiji, Shraddhaya Vibhaji, and all the friends who are participating tonight. There seems to be someone mic. Yeah. It has been my good fortune to be associated with Puja Swamiji. Um, Swamiji not only has known me from before, but I have known Swamiji as one of our teachers when we were still studying at Bhavai Ashram. So here we shall start this evening's discussion. Does Jivan Mukti exist? I will begin with a short prayer of invocation and then we will go dwell on the topic. Om Om Yo Brahmanam Vidadhati Purvam Yo Vai Vedanshcha Prahiti Tasmai Tamha Devamatma Buddhi Prakasham Mumukshurvai Sharanamaham Prapadye Om शांति शांति शांति। ओम नमो ब्रह्मादिभ्यो ब्रह्म विद्या संप्रदाय कर्तृभ्यो वंश ऋषिभ्यो महद्भ्यो नमो गुरुभ्यः। सर्वोपप्लवरहितः प्रज्ञानघनः प्रत्यगर्थो ब्रह्मैवाहमस्मि ब्रह्मैवाहमस्मि। ओम्। To dwell on this topic, I have chosen a portion from the text called as Jivan Mukti Viveka, and that being the most appropriate text to contemplate on this particular question, a text which has been authored by Sri Vidyaranya Swami and so its authenticity, its importance is something which cannot be debated upon. When we talk about the word mukti or moksha, which happens to be sitting in the word Jivan Mukti as a compound over there, compound word Jivan Mukti, we have to understand the word mukti first. The word obviously means liberation, and it means freedom from suffering, end of misery. In the traditional and the most authentic way to define this word, mukti, it would mean that freedom from misery would be possible with freedom from birth and death. Because with birth and till death, there is the experiences are all fraught with some misery always. And death being not the full stop, the misery continues to assume a new form in a new body. So as long as the body and the birth and death, the cycle continues, there does not seem to be any cessation to this suffering. And therefore, freedom from the cycle of birth and death then is defined as mukti. Then the Upanishads, all of them unanimously say that this moksha or mukti, which is a purushartha, which is something that is sought by every person, but depending upon who is more poignantly conscious about this particular pursuit, now gives himself completely to the pursuit of moksha. And how would this purushartha, how would this be accomplished? So the Upanishad says it is through knowledge, knowing that Atma is Brahman, the ignorance which is the cause of bondage, and also in return becomes the cause for this cycle to keep on turning on and on, will be destroyed, and this is then called as liberation. But the question comes that, sir, you have already spoken about liberation, and that means that after this body too, not only that we do not get any other body, but after this body also disintegrates. Then it disintegrates in the sense when the prarabdha kshaya, when the prarabdha the force that has brought this particular body into existence is exhausted, then after the new body, the continuation of misery does not take place because there is no ignorance. So the present body is not there. There is no new body to be assumed, and thus there is liberation, which is fine, sir. But what about as long as this particular body continues? Does that mean that you advocate that the suffering would still continue? And then we simply have to endure this suffering till this body or till this prarabdha ends, and therefore comes a topic called as Jivan Mukti. And the text itself, the title of that text is Jivan Mukti Viveka, which means a clear understanding, discrimination about what Jivan Mukti is. So here I have a small little portion. Let us follow this particular text to understand this term Jivan Mukti. Atha Keyam Jivan Mukti. So it begins with a question. Sir, what exactly is this Jivan Mukti? Kimva tatra pramanam. Because when anything has to be known, or anything has to become evident, whether it becomes evident to you or it has to be made evident to someone else. And that becoming evident means knowing something, experiencing something. When something is experienced, when there is a valid experience, not an erroneous experience, but an valid experience. If there is a valid experience, then that valid experience means that it is known. It is known, so it becomes evident to you. But sir, how do we know anything? How does anything become evident to us? And so we say that lakshana pramanabhyam vastu siddhi. There are these two things which are essential, and that is lakshana and pramana. Lakshana means a distinguishing characteristic, and pramana means employing the valid means of knowing. To, to put it in brief, when we have eyes, it is only when we employ the eyes will we have the experience or knowledge about colors and forms. So when do we know the colors and forms? Only when we have the chakshurindriyas. So the chakshurindriyas become over here the valid means to experience colors and forms. And if these chakshurindriyas are not employed, we wouldn't have that knowledge. We wouldn't be able to have the experience of colors and forms, and therefore pramanam is necessary. So now, when you have to talk about giving a definition, providing a definition about what Jivan Mukti is, we cannot simply make vague statements, but we require pramanam. And therefore, he says, Kimva tatra pramanam. What is it? Which it is through which means are you able to really say that there is Jivan Mukti? And we all are somewhere aware that just as eyes become the valid means for colors and forms, then Shrotrendriya, the auditory faculty, becomes the valid means to know the world of sounds. By employing the eyes, we won't be able to know the sounds. By employing the nose, we still will not be able to know or experience the sounds. In order to experience the sounds, we will have to have the auditory faculty intact and employ it. So thus, that particular means is exclusively available for a particular thing to become evident. Eyes will make only the colors and forms evident. The auditory faculty will make only the sounds evident. Like that, now what this mukti is, what is moksha? Now this becomes evident only through the Upanishad, through Shabda Pramana. Then when we talk about the Shabda Pramana, it tells us what this moksha is. But we are now talking about not only just moksha or mukti, we are talking about jivan mukti. And therefore, we require some pramana which will tell us about mukti and precisely about jivan mukti. So, which pramana can there be for this? Again, only the Upanishad will become the valid means to show us what is Jivan Mukti. And therefore, the question is, Tatra Kim Pramanam? How can it be established that there is Jivan Mukti? Because there can be some person and his whims and fancies also can be there. But we are not interested in anybody's whims and fancies. We are not interested in anybody giving any postulates, but we want to know what the fact is, and the fact will be revealed only through valid means. Therefore, kim va tatra pramanam, katham va tat siddhi. Sir, the Jivan Mukti also may be there, but how but how will it become evident? And tat siddhi, tasya jnanasya katham siddhi. How will it become evident to us? And how can even we accomplish Jivan Mukti? So tat siddhi, that question goes, Kimva tatra pramanam is one thing. Tat siddhi means how can that be accomplished? What is this sadhana to accomplish Jivan Mukti? One may even accomplish that Jivan Mukti, but by gaining this Jivan Mukti, what is it that you finally are able to attain? What is the prayojanam? Siddhava kim prayojanam iti. Even if that Jivan Mukti, according to whatever it may be, even if that is attained, what will be? What will it finally deliver? What will be its consequence? Kim prayojanam. What is the purpose of even striving for Jivan Mukti? Now, with all these questions, now it becomes, is there Jivan Mukti? If there is Jivan Mukti, then it should become evident. And for it to become evident, we require a proper pramanam which will show us what that Jivan Mukti is. And now by employing that pramanam, even if we know there is Jivan Mukti, sir, how will one attain it? So what is the sadhanam? And even if a person is able to give himself to the sadhana of Jivan Mukti, what is the real purpose to put oneself into this entire gamut of sadhana for Jivan Mukti too? So these are the various questions with that. So we are going to go through some of it as much as possible and look at it through this particular, with the help of this text. So we will pray to Vidyaranya Swami to take us through this whole journey. Uchyate. Now this is the questions are answered. Jivataha purushasya kartritva bhoktritva sukha dukkhadi lakshanash chitta dharmaha klesharupatvat bandho bhavati tasya nivaranam Jivan Mukti. So first of all, Jivataha Purushasya. The person is who? We are not talking about someone who had the knowledge, and as a result of that knowledge, that person attained Mukti, but he, after the Deha path, after the body perishes. So we are not talking about something that is post-mortem. Then jivataha purushasya kartrutva bhoktru. So here jivataha purushasya, that person, now that person means it can be a man, woman, rich, poor, all these things are irrelevant. Jivataha purushasya. Now this is obviously the person is sadhana chatushtaya sampanna. Jivataha purushasya. Now that person is someone who's still breathing, living. And as we live in this world, we are subjected to experiences of what? Of various kinds of sufferings. Really speaking, we have only experience of this suffering, less suffering and more suffering. Less suffering and more suffering. And in our definition, then what is called as less suffering, we call it as our it is happiness. No. So uchyate. So there is this suffering. Jivataha purushasya. Now this jivata purusha, the person who's living, has to suffer, and he suffers. Kartrutva bhoktrutva sukha dukkhadi lakshanaschitta dharmaha. Now, that living person means that he is endowed with body and mind. So the body-mind complex is available for him. And the one who is liberated and also who has passed away, for him there is no body-mind complex. But the jivataha purusha, that jnani, will have the body-mind complex. As a result, that mind also has its own attributes. And how are these attributes? Which are dharma. Dharma means it is inseparable. It is inseparable. So when you say that it is the dharma of that object, it is an attribute, integral attribute of that object, which means it cannot be separated. Okay? It cannot be separated. Like cowness and the cow. Cow is the animal, and in this animal there is cowness. Gotvam is there. But we cannot separate it and say this is the cow and this is the cowness. No, we cannot find two different things over here. So dharma is there. And there is a dharma of that mind. What is that dharma of the mind? Kartrutva bhoktritva. The sense of doership and the sense of experiencership. So now we claim that I am the doer, and I am the doer means I am doing something, whether it is a physical activity, bodily lifting something, keeping something, releasing something, walking, etc. Then there is verbal action, and then there is also the mental action. So I thought, I will think, I am thinking. So there is an action, and that's why that verbal form is valid. So kartrutva bhoktrutva is there. And as a result, certain actions are done correctly and certain actions are done wrongly. The wrong actions will bring undesired consequences, and the correct scheme of actions will bring us the desired consequences. What is desired? Sukham is desired. What is not desired but avoided? Dukkham is avoided. But our actions, which therefore bring us sukham, desired consequences, we call it as punya. We call it as dharma, or we call it as punya. And those actions which knowingly, unknowingly are performed by us, but they bring us the undesired consequences. Hence, those actions are called as papa. So now I am the agent. What do I see myself? What do I discover about myself is that I am the agent who does these actions. So sukha and as a result, there is sukha and dukkha to be experienced. So kartrutva, bhoktritva, sukha dukkhadi lakshana chitta dharmaha. Now, as long as the mind is there, till then, that these things will continue. Aham karta, aham bhokta, and this is nice, this is not nice, this is good, this is bad, this is enjoyable, this is delightful. All such things will also continue. Kartrutva, and these are the chitta dharmas. Let them be there. What is your problem? So he says, then klesha rupatvad bandha bhavati, bandho bhavati. This is the bondage. But even if they are there, what is the problem? Let that kartritva, bhoktritva stay over there. He says, no, klesha rupatvad, because by its very nature. How is it? By its very nature. Not that you have made it klesha rupa, your neighbors, parents, teachers, politicians have made it klesha rupa. No. That kartritva, bhoktritva, etc. is klesha rupa. It is in the form of afflictions. And so therefore, bandho bhavati. This is the bondage. Now the bondage that we are talking about, we are not defining bondage as ignorance. Why? Because we are interested in providing the definition of the word Jivan Mukti. Over here, we are not calling ignorance as as the bondage, but we are calling kartrutva, bhoktrutva, chitta dharmas as the bondage. Bandhaha bhavati, tasya nivaranam jivan muktihi. But sir, why aren't you call in when we are going to say these chitta dharmas, kartritva, bhoktritva, etc., is the bondage? That means it will include in ignorance too. It will cover ignorance too, because this kartritva, bhoktritva, etc., also will not rise without ignorance. So ignorance is already counted. Ignorance is already sitting over there. But we are now wanting to define Jivan Mukti, and hence, what is it that bothers you, me, or somebody else as a living person? And that what is that dukkham? These things. And therefore, mitigation of these, tasya nivaranam, elimination of all these is called as Jivan Mukti. Now look at that definition. Now this definition itself is quite sound definition. Jivataha purushasya. So first of all, the person is a living entity. He is a living entity. So we are not talking about someone who is a jnani and he has, exhausted videha kaivalyam. We are not talking about it. We are talking about jivataha purushasya. Then what is the bandhanam for him? Some chitta dharmas are the bandhana. Now, why are you calling the chitta dharma as the bandhana? Because klesha rupatva. And then tasya nivaranam, removal of this, mitigation of this bandha, of this bondage, we call as Jivan Mukti. Nanu ayam bandha kim sakshino nivaryate kim va chittat. So there is a question, and the question is, sir, now we know that there is aham drashta, that atma is the seer, and everything else is drishyam, including the mind. So now, whatever that bondage is, whatever that bondage is, to whom does this bondage belong? Because if that bondage has to be removed, like the vrikshat phalam patati. So vrikshat panchamyanta, the fifth case, ablative case, will be vrikshat. So from the tree, the fruit falls. Like that, from where do you want to remove the bondage? From the sakshi, from the witnessing consciousness, or from the mind? Because there are only two things now. We are looking at, from where do you want to remove this bondage? Sakshino nivaryate kimva chittat. Then the answer is na. The questioner only is saying na adyaha. In the first case, it cannot be removed from the sakshi. Why can't it be removed from the sakshi? Because it does not belong to the sakshi. It is not there at all in the sakshi. Even this kartritva bhoktritva is also the drishyam for sakshi. Okay, it is sakshi bhasyam, and therefore nadyaha tatvajnanena eva nivaritatvat, because and it cannot be removed even by the sakshi. Tatvajnanena eva nivaritatvat. It will be removed by knowledge. And all this knowledge, cognitive processes, etc., do not have access to the sakshi. The sakshi will only illumine all this. So tatvajnanena eva nivaritatvat. This ignorance or all these things, kartritva bhoktritva, cannot be removed by the sakshi. Sakshino nivaryate. Where is it? Nivaritatva nadvitiya. What is the second option? Will you remove it from the mind? That is asambhava. It is not possible that we can even remove it from the mind. Sir, why are you being so pessimist? We are more interested in wanting to know how Jivan Mukti can be accomplished. Yes, we will be able to accomplish Jivan Mukti only if we know what exactly are we striving for. What exactly are we striving from? From what is the bandha that you want to remove, A, and B, how will you even remove that bandha? Only when the vision is clear, understanding is clear about it, then only can you say that there is this Jivan Mukti. Okay, why can't it be removed from the mind? So this fellow tells that when some attribute is the dharma, it is the dharma, it is an intrinsic quality belonging to the object, then it cannot be removed. Then it cannot be removed because it belongs intrinsically to that object. So asambhavat यदा तु जला द्रवत्वं निवार्येत वह्नेः वा उष्णत्वं तदा चित्तात् कर्तृत्वादि निवारण संभवः. If you can remove the heat from the fire, it cannot be called as fire. It will become a picture of the fire, but it will not be fire. It will become a picture. It can be a nice realistic picture of the fire, but it is not fire. So the aushnyam, the heat, cannot be removed from the fire. It is the intrinsic quality belonging to the fire. Like that, the kartritva, bhoktritva, sukha, dukkha, etc., these are the intrinsic qualities belonging to the mind. It cannot be removed from the mind. So now there are two things, the sakshi and the mind, which is the drishyam. From the drashta, it cannot be removed because it is not there in drashta. B, can it be removed from the drishyam? It cannot be removed from this drishyam because it is an intrinsic
quality of the drishyam called as the mind. And therefore, sir, you may define this Jivan Mukti, but it is not possible. So it is not possible. Asambhavaha it is asambhava. Atyaha. Now the teacher says, Maivam. Don't say like that it is not possible. Is the teacher trying to encourage us? Is he trying to give us some inspiration so that, we can keep on walking and walking and walking? No, the teacher is giving us clarity. The job of a teacher is not to inspire. The job of the teacher is to make us understand clearly. That is what the teacher does. To inspire, etc., can be done by several motivational people, speakers, etc. Our job is, as a teacher, what does he do? He gives the clarity. So maivam, not like this. Not like this means there is a wrong channel of thinking, and that is what needs to be corrected. What is that wrong channel? That he is saying that Jivan Mukti, whatever it may be, that the definition that you have given, the bandhasya nivaranam, jivataha purushasya yad bandham tasya nivaranam. You have given that definition, but it is not workable. It cannot be worked. It is not sampratipannaha. It is not properly established. He says, Maivam. This is not true. Why? Atyant. Now, this is a very, very important part. Please look at it. Atyantika nivarana sambhavepi. So there is angikar. So now the teacher accepts that argument. That what is that argument? Since it is the integral part, it is an integral intrinsic attribute of the mind. Which is the intrinsic attribute? Kartritva bhoktritvadi. It is the intrinsic attribute of the mind. It cannot be removed. This much part is acceptable. But what is not acceptable? That Jivan Mukti is impossible, and therefore Jivan Mukti is impossible. This part of the sentence is not acceptable. So when some portion of the argument is accepted and when some portion is not accepted, this we technically call as ardhangikar. Half portion is correct. It is acceptable. Ardhangikara. So the teacher says, Atyantika nivarana asambhavepi. True. It cannot be removed absolutely. And therefore, those people who have the opinion that Jivan Mukta means the one whose ego and that Kartritva Bhoktritva is totally gone, he never, that jnani never even registers what is sukham, what is dukkham. We are not talking about a rock. We are talking about a living person. And as long as the person is living, he will understand, he will register, this is cold, this is hot. You are going to pour some hot water on his head, and don't imagine that since he is Jivan Mukta, he will not register. He has not become a rock. He will. And if you are going to say something inappropriate, that may even hurt him. It is true. And therefore, what is the sentence? Atyantika nivarana sambhavepi. Though it is not possible to remove it totally, absolutely, yet, then what is possible? It is not possible. Absolute removal is not possible in case of the Jivataha. But in case of Videha Mukti, absolute. Why absolute? Because the mind itself is not there, it gets dissolved, is not there, and therefore that Kartritva Bhoktritva Adi Bandham is also not there. But here, as long as that the mind, body mind complex is going to exist, therefore what is there? Absolute mitigation is not possible. And so Abhibhavasya Sambhavat, it is still possible to subdue, to subdue, to subjugate this bandham to that extent that though it is there, yet it is not, it is not a problem. So you look at this. Atyantika nivarana sambhave api api. Now that api means a clause is created. So like but, yet, in spite of that, abhibhavasya sambhavat, it is possible to subdue it, means to carve it down. To what extent it can be carved down? To the extent that it does not become a problem. This is possible. Yatha jalagatam dravatvam mrittika melanena abhibhuyate vahnehe aushnyam manimantradina tatha sarvaschitta vrittayo yogabhyasena abhibhavitum shakyante. Now we are now this gives us, this paves the path to discuss that, sir, this is Jivan Mukti, and then for that Jivan Mukti, what is the sadhanam? So now the topic is getting developed. He says Jalagata Dravatvam. Now the water is liquid, and therefore it will run, it will flow. If the water is left by itself, it will start flowing. Why? Because that is the nature, dravatvam. It is the nature of that water. But if we add some clay, soil to that water, the moisture will be there. But now it is no longer moving, it is no longer running. Jalagata dravatvam mrittika melanena, by mixing some clay, etc. with it, abhibhuyate, that quality of flowing, fluidity is subdued. Water remains, but it is no longer fluid. Abhibhuyate vahnehe aushnyam manimantradina. So another example, that with the help of certain mantra, or there is one money, some kind of a bead or a jewel, by holding that and by chanting that mantra, the heat of the fire does not affect that person, does not affect that person. So how is it? Mani mantra dina vahnehe aushnyam tatha. Now this is the drishtanta. What is the darshtanta? Tatha sarvaschitta vrittayaha yoga abhyasena abhibhavitum shakyante. Now these kartritva, bhoktritva, etc., which is the intrinsic quality of the mind, when does it become evident? Only when the mind projects the thoughts. It fluctuates, it modifies into thoughts when there is chitta vritti. But if the chitta vritti is not there, and if the chitta vritti is subdued, then though that mind is there, yet it will not become, it will not become venomous, toxic. So, and this quality in which The chitta vritti, the modifications of the mind called as thoughts, are stilled, are subdued, are subjugated, are suspended. That is possible, but through what? Through the practice of yoga. Now, that practice of yoga means through the samadhi abhyas. Okay, and this is the reason why practice of meditation is extremely important. Thus, over here, in the scheme of Jivan Mukti, now meditation, yoga, abhyas becomes important. Till now, only for the knowledge to take place, look at that. For knowledge to take place, we require a mind which is not distracted. And this is the reason why in the sadhana chatushtaya, we come across this quality of the called as samadhanam, which means chittasya ekagrata, which means that the mind remains focused, the mind remains collected, remains focused. If this is the quality of the mind, that it does not get distracted, it is not led astray, it does not meander here and there because of desires or searching for objects of happiness or pleasures everywhere. That mind does not go anywhere, remains focused on what? Over there, on what the Upanishad is saying. What the Upanishad is saying. If the mind, for that much samadhanam is there, if this is the quality of the mind, which is the ekagra chitta, is required for knowledge to take place. And when the knowledge is there, and the mind, that knowledge remains shining brilliant till the end of life, and then after the body is given up, then the videha kaivalyam is there for such a mahatma, such a person. But we are not talking about videha kaivalyam. We are talking about Jivan Mukti. And therefore, for Jivan Mukti, we require not only mind which is single pointed, but we require mind in which now samadhi becomes its feature, character. We require mind like that. So yogaabhyasena abhibhavitum shakyante. So now please remember these two things, that in Jivan Mukti, it means freedom from bandha. What is that bandha? Kartritva bhoktritvam. But that kartritva bhoktritvam cannot be absolutely, totally, completely negated, mitigated, removed. Because we hear this kind of a thing very often from various spiritual speakers. Oh, surrender of the ego, they have given up the ego and all these things. Sir, that is all nice. It simply means that the person is humble and a simple person. Okay. But when we say that the ego is totally free from the, what do you mean by that? That even that fellow who's talking like that will not know that ego means kartritva bhoktritvam, and that kartritvam and bhoktritvam cannot be totally, absolutely removed, but it can only be diluted. This is also a nice word to explain. It can be diluted to such an extent that it does not become a bandha. It may be there, but it is no longer creating a problem. So Vidyaranya Swami over here, by giving this particular definition, he has inaugurated this whole topic, which becomes the entire bulk of this particular text called as Jivan Mukti Viveka. Now, to put it all together, we have now understood that along with knowledge, there is a need for calm, collected mind. And not only that this mind is calm and collected, but it has sufficient freedom from desires, etc. To decipher this statement, we will understand what is the sadhana for Jivan Mukti, and which will be spelled out by Vidyaranya Swami himself. He is now going to say, for Jivan Mukti, these are the three things which are required. One is Tattva Jnanam, the knowledge. Okay, it is the knowledge. It is not conviction or anything, it is knowledge. So, first is Tattva Jnanam. Then the second one is Vasana Kshaya, elimination of various vasanas, desires, ambitions. I like one statement of Jai Krishnamurti ji. In one place, Krishnamurti says, how can you be peaceful if you are going to sit on a volcano of desires and ambitions? You see, legitimate, illegitimate desires to take revenge, of jealousy, of whatever. There are desires. Prestige issues. How can you be peaceful? You are already sitting on a volcano and imagining that why am I not feeling peaceful? So Vasana Kshaya means there is a great degree of freedom from desires, various desires. Vasana Kshaya. Kshaya is the gradual disintegration or disappearance of vasanas. One. Two. So first one is Tattva Jnanam. That means Shravana Manana Nididhyasanam. Then Vasana Kshaya. And then the third one is mind, which can easily be immersed, absorbed in samadhi. That is Manonasha. These are the three sadhanas that Vidyaranya Swami shows us. And how does he show? Through Lakshana and Pramana. Because we are, the time is little short. That's why all the topics and things cannot be covered. But we can conclusively say that yes, the Upanishad talks about moksha and talks about moksha as Videha Kaivalya and Jivan Mukti. And if there is no peace as we are living, then there may be knowledge, but that knowledge will not become stable. There won't be Jnananishtha. And therefore, Vasana Kshaya is also required, Manonasha is also required for Tattva Jnanam to become stable. And that's why, if you remember, Bhagavan Shankaracharya in his commentary on the divine virtues or the divine wealth, Daivi Sampat, Daivasura Sampat, in the 16th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, he says the Pradhana Sampat means the principal divine virtue is Dhyanabhyasa, is the practice of Yoga Abhyasa, Jnana Yoga Vyavasthitihi, because that is the thing which will give the platform, a stable platform for the knowledge. And if the knowledge keeps on flickering, though it is a flame, yet it will not be able to cast as much light to dispel the darkness of ignorance, so that will remain unstable. So in order to stabilize the knowledge, so if you remember, even in the small simple prayer that we have, invocation, Tejasvinavadhitamastu, whatever is being studied by us, known by us, let it remain bright and brilliant. Tejasvinav adhitamastu. Adhitam. So that whatever is studied, let it make us bright, brilliant, means that knowledge, let it remain bright. So these are two sadhanas means the means, Manonasha and Vasanakshaya, that will give this stability to the knowledge. So when the life is blessed, this is the Atma Kripa. In Vedanta, we accept 4 forms of grace. What are the different 4 graces? So first one is Ishvara Kripa, the grace of God. Then Shastra Kripa, the grace of the Shastra, Upanishad. Then the grace of the teacher. And the 4th one is grace of your own self. We have to bless our Atma Kripa ourselves. How would one bless himself? By giving himself, committing himself to these sadhana of Vasana Kshaya and Manonasha. So this is how it goes. Then there is also, the topic continues to show us that what is the pramanam. You are saying there is a pramanam for this, and he gives us that Kathopanishad and some Brihadaranyaka Vakyas as the pramanas. Shruti Smriti Vakyani Jivan Mukti Sadbhave Pramanani. Now there are ample number of statements which will make the Jivan Mukti evident to us. And one statement is Vimuktascha Vimuchyate. The one who has become free whilst living will be freed even after the death of the body. Otherwise, later on I will become free will only be an imagination of the person. So therefore, Jivan Mukti Sadbhave, there are ample number of statements which will show this Jivan Mukti exists. What is that Jivan Mukti? Freedom from that bandha. For whom? Jivataha Purushasya. For a person who is still living. And that is what makes this Mukti, gives that Mukti, this freedom, the name freedom or liberation whilst living. So this is Jivan Mukti. And so here we are at the end of our session, and I conclude this here that yes, this is the definition, and it is supported, shown to us by various Upanishad itself. So I will finish this particular session, and many thanks to Pujya Swamiji and Shraddheya Vibhaji for bringing me over here this evening to discuss one of these topics, which is, of course, a very interesting topic to me, and it is a Shastriya topic. So, Swamiji, Pranam, please bless us all that we may progress on this path of spirituality, of Jivan Mukti. Vibhaji, thank you again. Thank you, all of you.
Pranam,
Om
Swami.
Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
Pranam Swami Abhishekanandaji. We are very fortunate and we really enjoyed that you started from the definition of Jivan Mukti and took us to the whole process of Pramana Vichara and then finally up to Sadhana, and you ended with the main four kripas, Atma Kripa, Guru Kripa, Ishwar Kripa, and Shastra Kripa. That also was really in a short, in this 45 minutes, you have opened, given us the complete knowledge about what Jivan Mukti is, and starting with the Jivataha Purusha. That is very important. That yes, it's an inspiration that yes, we are on path and we'll be reaching there. Thank you so much, sir. Swamiji, you are welcome again and again. And Pujya Swamiji would like to speak a few words.
Well, I'm sure people have some questions too, but yes, at this moment, I wish to once more acknowledge this wonderful continued association, and Pujya Abhishek Chaitanya Giri Swamiji has given a very interesting talk. I'm sure everybody enjoyed a new flavor of quoting so many lines from that beautiful Sanskrit text, explaining sentence by sentence. Everybody would have got a taste of how arguments are raised and they are answered in the traditional texts. Puja Swamiji has his own specialization in that kind of delivery. We would like to welcome him more and more on such occasions. Now, over to all the participants to ask questions or, I guess, make some comments. I'm sure Swamiji will welcome them all. Namaste.
Yes, all are welcome to ask questions, and Pujya Swami Abhishekanandaji will be ready to answer your questions.
I think Sham Sundarji wants to ask. Please turn your mic on and speak up.
Okay. Hari Om Swamiji. It was a very nice and very interesting topic. My question is,
Your mic,
Mic went off.
unmute your mic.
By mistake, it went off.
okay. So you had mentioned about the Vasana Kshaya, Shastra Gnana, and Manonasha in the meditation. But in the meditation, isn't it necessary for the mind to be active? And if the mind, the Manonasha is there, what would we do in the meditation?
The word manonasha is a technical term. That manonasha does not mean, the translation would be destruction of mind. It is not destruction of mind, it is dissolution of mind. Okay.
Okay.
And that dissolution of mind also does not mean that, the faculty of thinking is disintegrated or anything like that. It means that the mind remains absorbed in samadhi. It remains absorbed in samadhi. Okay. Now that mind of such a great sage has already accomplished what it has to accomplish. And therefore, instead of getting involved with mithya padartha, the mind remains absorbed in Brahman. That is all what it means. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yes, divinity heals. Yeah. Do you have any questions? Yeah, please. Please.
Har Mahadev Swamiji. If any one practice which you could suggest, which would help us consistently work on it, looking into our family responsibilities and all other responsibilities which we have to do, one consistent practice which we could do consistently to get into that meditative state.
One practice also is also suggested by Shankaracharya Bhagavan. He, in that Bhajagovindam text, which is a poetry with a lot of melody to it, he says, Satsangatve Nisangatvam, Nisangatve Nirmohatvam, Nirmohatve Nishchalatatvam, Nishchalatatve Jivan Mukti. So this is the map. This is the map. He is giving us the map. First of all, satsanga. So when you are doing the shravana, etc., it is satsanga. So through satsanga, your mind will develop that maturity to have objective vision. And not everything is to be evaluated subjectively concerning me. Somebody is laughing. So that does not mean that he is laughing at me. So this habit of turning every issue into subjective matter will be overcome. How? Through satsanga. Satsangatve nisangatvam. Then through nisangatve nirmohatvam. Now the mind will slowly become free from the fog, the mist of delusion will be dispelled away. Nirmohatvam. Then nirmohatve nishchalatatvam. And when the moha, or what do they call, the delusion is gone, then you discover that which is nishchalatattva. That principle which is unchanging, changeless principle. And once when that changeless principle is discovered, Jivan Mukti. So Satsangatve Nisangatvam, Nisangatve Nirmohatvam, Nirmohatve Nishchalatatvam. And Nishchalatatva is found. Jivan Mukti is accomplished.
Hariom Swamiji. One quick question. So Swamiji, once you get the Tattva Gnanam, that clarity with the Shravanam and Mananam, so continuous Nididhyasanam will bring that two other states, that Manonasa and
Yes. Desireless.
Desireless. So the contemplative thing, and also to stay in the Jivan Mukta state to continue that process, Swamiji.
Yes. Yes. That is one thing. And this is the reason why, as much as the mind is now able to become stable in that state, the joy of Jivan Mukti starts becoming denser and denser. And therefore, it is a progress. It is a progress. This is the reason why even the Shastras are able to say that there are levels of Jivan Mukti. because it is a state. As much as the mind stays stable over there. So that is the reason why we have certain terms like Brahmavid, the first, then Brahmavidvara, the second, the Brahmavidvariyan, and finally Brahmavidvarishtha, the one who is completely absorbed.
Thank you, Swamiji.
I think Vibhaji, all of them have, those who are wanted to ask, I suppose, have already asked. Is there anyone?
I don't know. There is
I
one
have,
Hindu.
I have a question. Ram, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Pujya Swamiji, this applies to both Swamijis. Shastras tell us that you are already a Jivan Mukta, you are not Bandha, and also you're already liberated, you're Brahman. Whatever the methods we achieve, we are taking sadhanas, are not to achieve any one of that. Whatever you achieve is non-eternal. It will go away one day. We are already been told you are that. Sadhanas are only from going from avidya to knowledge.
Correct.
To cognize that you are a liberated soul, you are a Brahman, you are Jivan Mukta. So my question is.
One second. Let me correct the question a little bit.
Okay, sure, go ahead.
The statement is not to tell you that you are a Jivan Mukta. It is to tell you that you are Brahman Muktaha. So the words Jivan Mukta and Videha Mukta are in reference to body being there or body not being there. So there is a certain amount of identification with the body, even in case of a jnani. Please understand that. Even in case of a jnani, there is a certain amount of identification with the body. And if such identification is
Can I interlude the Swamiji that identification is an enlightened ahankara, not necessarily it's an enlightened ahankara. And the last four things you told about Brahma Jnana, the four different things you told, that's a Vedic connotation. It doesn't apply to Vedantic type of self-realization. Doesn't give gradations. Gradations are based in Vedic knowledge. Vedantic self-realization is based on vairagya, not necessarily based on yogic definition.
Since I can say one thing, and this is that perhaps I might not be knowing what you're saying over here, so I may not be qualified to answer this.
Maybe Swami Chidananda can answer. Maybe.
I am fond of a quotation which is based on a bhajan by Saint Meera. I believe that bhajan has this line: with great difficulty I crossed the river of Maya, and after going across, I look back, there is no river at all. So this business of getting liberated, yes, from one angle is said to be a non-event, you are already free. But from another angle, it is talked about endlessly in the books. See, Saint Meera, Sant Meera, she says, with great difficulty I crossed the river of Maya. That part, gives a sense of reality to bondage. But after going there, she looks back, "Oh, where is the river which I crossed?" It's gone. So this is always a puzzle. It's like a Zen koan.
Swamiji, it is a transactional language rather than paramarthika language, don't you think so? Whatever
For
Meera
Paramarthika
says,
language, no one needs to do anything.
right?
But we are caught in transactional world.
The idea is
Therefore,
to get out of that transactional world.
the scriptures themselves say, "Yap pashyati sa pashyati." He who sees, sees. He who doesn't, doesn't. So it's very puzzling.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Yes, Swamiji, I too have a question.
Please go
Please.
ahead.
Yes. The question is the person who is who is in a meditative state and his mind is absorbed in whatever Swamiji talked about, like his mind is completely absorbed in sadhana or something. So is that person able to perform like daily activities? In our age, we have to perform a lot of do the jobs and everything. So is that person able to perform all those things?
Is this question to me or to Puja Swamiji?
Anyone who can answer it.
I'll leave it to.
Can you reword it in a single sentence?
Okay, being in that meditative state which Swamiji talked about, like is it can that person perform the daily activities like a normal person, or his mind is completely absorbed or that way?
See, the very idea of Jivan Mukta is that he is able to function. And what is the difference then? He will function without ego. Therefore, there was a question about Mano Nasha. I am fond of generally describing Mano Nasha, destruction of the mind, as destruction of the ego. This undue importance that we give to our status, our fame, our name, how much money is in my name, and so on. That's a psychological problem. Biologically, Jivan Mukta also has hunger. So we often say Vedanta frees us from psychological hang-ups. After enlightenment, it's not that we don't feel hungry, or after enlightenment, it's not that we don't enjoy the sight of a rainbow. We feel happy at the sight of a rainbow. And if there is some poor man hungry and on top of it gets beaten by somebody, Jivan Mukta also feels very bad about it. What's this going on? These are, very objective. There is nothing divisive there. The ego makes us divide. My man was beaten. If another man is beaten, let him be beaten. But my man should not be. All this I, me, and my go away. So, to answer your question in single sentence, the person who enjoys deep, peaceful meditation will function better.
Yeah.
Yeah, will function better.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Welcome.
There is one comment by Indu, like Balsekarji said, the working mind and the thinking mind. I don't know what she means by that. If Miss Indu is here, she can clarify it.
Maybe she can say a few words on that, what is meant by.
Okay, and second,
I have one more question, Swamiji.
Yeah.
This is regarding the question of how the Jivan Mukti, the difference between a Jivan Mukti and a common person. It's more than a statement than a question.
Okay.
The difference between it's a Jivan Mukti or a Gnani, and the Agnani is they Agnanis have a Dehabhimana, right?
Yeah.
And the Jivan Mukti doesn't have a Dehabhimana.
Yeah.
So I think that's where the difference is.
Well
I
said.
believe.
Yeah.
Right, Swamiji?
Well said. But what is meant by Dehabhimana, as we took it up a while ago, it doesn't mean a Jivan Mukta has no hunger, but Dehabhimana as expressed in comparative terms. I look better than the other person. I'm
Right.
also 72, he is also 72, but I look like 62. You know, that kind of Dehabhimana goes away. But hunger, thirst are purely biological. They will not go away. But there also any further components will not be there. Some agitation. Why am I getting hungry so often? You know,
Mm.
these things. He takes things in his stride. If he feels hungry, has no false prestige in asking even somebody otherwise lower than him. He asks him, "Can you give me some food?" No false prestige. Yeah, well said. Dehabhimana, yes or no, make
Yeah.
Baddha Mukta.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, Vibhaji was saying something. Did you see any other question
Yeah,
somewhere?
in chat box, Vijayalakshmi Bangera has asked question. Desire make life interesting. What is the need to get rid of them? Am I clear, Swamiji?
Well said. Well, yeah, very, very clear. So Abhishek ji perhaps has a desire to answer this question.
Well, desires, it is a privilege to have desire. It is a privilege to have desire. But when the desire does not remain a privilege and becomes a liability, would we be able to understand when it has crossed the line and has become a liability? I would agree to what you are saying, that they make our life interesting. But when the desire crosses the line of being a privilege, because a desire means you have a choice. I can choose this, I can choose that, and that's why I have a desire. A cow does not have a desire to become non-vegetarian or a vegetarian because there is no choice involved. So wherever there is a choice, it is definitely a privilege. And that means it is a ground for desire to play. But when does that desire becomes a liability is a very dicey matter. Besides this, we are discussing a topic which is Brahmajnanam, which is liberation. To have desire and keep it manageable is is the wisdom of a person. But we are talking about a person who already has this wisdom and also has the peace which the freedom from desire has given him. Now, with that freedom and with that peace, if he is able to contemplate and discover Atma is Brahman, then he finds that immense freedom, and that freedom is freedom from desire itself, freedom from any sense of limitation. So therefore, these are two different topics. Unless and until one has graduated and passed through the earlier camp of Karma Yoga, how would he even come to Brahmajnanam? So there is this. Yeah.
Well said. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. I think nothing more is there on the chat box.
Yeah.
Okay, Swamiji, let me conclude this webinar. Thank you, Swami Abhishektanji. Thank you so much. You are most welcome. Pranam, Swamiji. Thank you all who attended this and who might see it on the YouTube also tomorrow. Thank you.
Pranam,
Thank you.
Swamiji.
Hari Om Vipaji. Hari Om Swamiji. Hari Om.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Hari.
Hari Om. Namaste.
Hari Om.